The Jacksonville Jaguars are a football team. You already know that information, so how about I start us off with a joke? The Jacksonville Jaguars are a football team. Man, that Minnesota Vikings team is pretty goddamn good at 8-2, isn't it? Never mind the fact that they almost just lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the exact same Jacksonville Jaguars team that decided to cosplay as a pancake in front of the Detroit Lions steamroller this week, on their way to a 52-6 blowout. You know, if I was so inclined, and I was one of those YouTubers who did a shitload of research, I would try to find how many NFL teams have been 8-2. Fortunately for me, I'm not a fucking nerd, and I'm lazy and incompetent as fuck. So what I did instead was I looked up how many teams started 8-0. And hey, if you start 8-0, out of the almost 30 teams that did that, 16 of them made it all the way to the fucking Super Bowl. Then I looked up how many teams went 14-2. And you can see right here, same thing. The vast majority of teams that went 14-2 had themselves a pretty goddamn good season. But the question you guys gotta ask yourselves, are the Vikings gonna get to 14-2? If your answer is yes, then I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go pump your own gas. Do it when you got about half a tank. Alright, you pump that gas. You see that number that comes up on that screen? Well, I got bad news for you. If you think the Minnesota Vikings are gonna go 14-2, then that number you see on the screen dwarfs the number that you would score on an IQ test. Forget about the fact that their team is currently quarterbacked by Sam Darnold, who has an expiration date of about 3 to 6 weeks before he starts seeing ghosts, and in the spirit of Halloween turns back into a pumpkin. Forget about the fact that their defense frequently allows their opponents to score numbers so high Leonardo DiCaprio would refuse to date them. How about just focusing on the fact that they're the fucking Minnesota Vikings? Of course they're a fucking fraud at 8-2. The Minnesota Vikings are the only franchise in the NFL that could go 17-0, somehow fail to get a first round bye, and then miss wide left on a game-losing play in the fucking wild card round. They are a fraudulent 8-2, achieving that number by beating, sometimes barely beating, some of the worst teams in the NFL in a season where it seems like we have 20 different teams vying for the right to be called the worst team in the NFL. Which brings us to our next victim. It's a good thing the Browns frequently wear brown pants, because it's about the only thing saving them from being caught shitting in their pants on a weekly basis. Well, at least in a literal sense. In a figurative sense, we watch this organization shit its pants with a kind of alarming frequency that would have a nursing home staff on red alert. You could not have given the Cleveland Browns a better opponent than a completely caved in New Orleans Saints. Let's not forget a couple weeks back, this is a New Orleans Saints team that had just fired their head coach for egregious incompetence and possibly for fraud, claiming he was an NFL head coach and having the audacity to collect a paycheck for it. The Browns had finally gotten rid of Deshaun Watson. They finally got Nick Chubb back, and they were going up against a Saints team that for the last 7 weeks thought scoring is something that high school kids in the 90s did with apple pie. Weren't the Browns supposed to have a good defense? Well, I guess Myles Garrett should be a little less focused on defending the abysmal reputation of a predator and a little more focused on doing his job, playing defense on an NFL football team. It should come as no surprise to you that as a man who lives in a fucking sewer and spends each week desperately hoping that a YouTube video will somehow go viral and give me a steady, reliable source of income to make up for my terrible gambling habits, that someone like me does not believe in karma. All I did was spend my life punching toddlers in the face and stealing their lollipops, trying to teach them tough lessons about avoiding strangers, and yet despite trying to teach safety to the toddlers of the world and saving them from potential diabetes by taking away their sugar-infested candy, how do I get rewarded? By being dunked in a fucking sewer. Well, I didn't believe in karma until the Cleveland Browns of 2024. I said it once, I said it twice, I'll say it every week if I have to. You could not have asked for a better, more deserving outcome for the Cleveland Browns and their Deshaun Watson trade than what we've gotten to see unfold over the last couple seasons. Thank you for restoring my faith in karma, Cleveland Browns. Despite throwing for almost 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, you still managed to barely score in this game. Now, the only thing that the Cleveland Browns have to do to complete this karmic circle of orange and brown pain is draft Shedeur Sanders and the absolute fucking clown buffoonery circus that's gonna follow him to the NFL. Or win a couple meaningless games late in the season and fall to like 5 wins and end up with pick number 10. I'm not sure which outcome I would like more. What I do know is whatever outcome unfolds, I will like the NFLOL disaster that comes out of it.
So unless you guys are deaf to the same degree that an NFL referee is blind when somebody gets their hands on a quarterback's face mask, you probably heard me talk about how I live in a fucking sewer and my entire life hinges on whether or not this YouTube channel takes off. That's where you come in. Like, subscribe if you haven't, comment, tell me what your favorite NFLOL foul moment was for the week. Share this shit around and help this motherfucker grow. Just like the baby crocodiles that are growing in the sewer, threatening to eat my ass alive.
Don't look now, but Drake May is actually looking like an efficient quarterback. Sure, it was against the St. Louis Rams, who are one of about 10 Jekyll and Hyde teams that can't decide whether they're good or they completely suck ass. But a rookie quarterback going 30 for 40, with almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and being a significant dual threat with his legs, that's something that absolutely bears applauding. But don't be fooled, folks. While the number's actually pretty good, the fact of the matter is that the New England Patriots spent almost the entirety of this game scoring absolutely no fucking points. 13 minutes left in the entire game and they still had only scored 13, taking advantage of a suspect Rams team that kind of took their foot off the gas pedal. With the game on the line and almost an entire quarter still to go, the Patriots managed a single field goal. So yeah, not bad, Drake May, but not exactly good either for the entire New England Patriots team. Some of the most iconic duos of all time. Peanut butter and jelly, the true bouse and kicking the shit out of toddlers and stealing their lollipops. But no duo is more iconic and more inseparable than the Atlanta Falcons and blowing a lead of some kind. It doesn't matter if it's in a singular game or if it's over the course of an entire season. As soon as the Atlanta Falcons took a commanding lead over the NFC South, every single person with even a passing familiarity with this team should have saw this shit coming. The Denver Broncos aren't even particularly good. They play solid defense, of course, but yet again, it's another Jekyll and Hyde team that every week you don't know what the fuck you're gonna get from them. Bo Nix walked up to the slot machine that is his talent level, pulled the lever, and holy shit, my guy hit 777s. Or maybe I should say quadruple 4s. What is it with rookies this week? Drake May was impressive, throwing 75% completion, 30 for 40. Bo Nix said, fuck that, hold my belt and walk with me, rookie. 28 of 33, 307 yards, 4 fucking touchdowns. And look at the guys who caught those passes. You're not exactly talking about luminaries. As soon as I saw Bo Nix's stat line, I assumed I would see Cortland Sutton with at least 2-3 touchdowns. Nuh-uh. Dude didn't even have one single end zone catch. Take notes, Jacksonville Jaguars, New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, and every other team that has spent the last decade or 2 or 6 proving that they don't know how to fucking develop an NFL quarterback despite constantly getting high picks. Sean Payton is cooking up something juicy over there in Denver, being a little mole ratatouille inside of Bo Nix's helmet. Hey, wait, so does that mean Zach Wilson getting that same coaching is going to end up going somewhere else and having a career revival? If that happens, they better close every bridge in New York. Otherwise, half the fucking city's population is probably going to jump off. What am I saying? The New York Jets aren't popular enough for half of New York City to give a shit about them. And if Jet fans haven't thrown themselves off a fucking bridge by now, I'm not sure anything can do it. But I don't know, with that playoff drought hitting 20 seasons, right about the time that Zach Wilson hits his stride with the Miami Dolphins and turns them into the next AFC East juggernaut, yeah, I can see that being a death blow for a fan base that thinks it's seen the lowest that low could possibly go. So how do I want to end this video? Well, I think it's about high goddamn time that I recognize some of the wonderful YouTubers in my comments section that have been following me for weeks and trying to help this channel grow. And since I'm a super smart businessman who's totally competent and wants to pay back my loyalty, it's time that I said thank you to